All right, so here it is, the chapter 5.5, 2, exercise 2 here, where here are the scenarios, okay? We are starting out from a new accounting period, so there is no beginning inventory, and in this case, I've already filled in all the information for you. All we're going to do is just practice basically calculating our numbers here. So right here on June 1st, we purchased 1,250 units at $1.08. Okay. So in this case, what is going to be my purchase price here? Okay, let's start with the formula. How do I solve for my purchase price?
Multiply the quantity by the unit price.
Good. So 12.50 times $1.08. What's my total purchase price for the purchase on June 1st?
It's 1,350.
1,350. Okay. Plus, we need to figure out what my total cost is. So what's the formula to solve for my total cost?
You need that purchase price with freight expense.
Good. So 1,350 plus 150 gives me a total of
It's 1,500.
1,500.
500.
Yep, good. Okay, so then how do I solve for my cost per item since I'm using Lifo?
You need a total cost divided by quantity.
Good. So in this case, I'm going to take my total cost of 1,500 and divide it by my total quantity of 1,250. So what is my cost per item?
For that shipment, it's $1.20.
Okay, $1.20. Now in this case, right, is this even $1.20? In this case, yes, it is. Okay. Now there will be often times where you'll get a cost per item that is not equally rounded. Okay. And what I want to do for this class is we will be practicing the equal round formula because it is rule of thumb that we should round our numbers to the nearest penny. But there are some circumstances where sometimes when you do end up rounding off too early, you end up hurting yourself in regards to profits, okay? But we'll talk about that in the next in the that section of the chapter. But for now, let's go ahead and just continue on with the rest of the problem, okay? So then on June 5th, we bought 850 units at $1.10. So what's my purchase price here? $8.50 times $1.10.
$9.35.
$9.35. Okay, plus $100 gives me a total cost of.
$1,035.
Okay, good. Now it's time to solve for my cost per item.
That one I got
$21.76.
Okay, 2176.
122.
Now this is where I was gonna say here. If you round this up to $1.22, right? Here what happens. Yes, you're costing yourself a little too much because at the end of the day, you're rounding up your cost to $1.22, right? So in this case, you would actually, let's see, if you were to sell 1,000 units, right, you would be cutting yourself short by $3. Now, $3 might be nothing to you, right? But imagine if you're selling in bulk and you have more than one inventory item, or if you're selling your inventory by the thousands, that $3 makes a difference. Okay? Yes.
So then, just to be certain on this,
Mhm.
when we're doing accounting and
Mhm.
we're using these,
Mhm.
how far out on the decimal point do we generally make sure our formulas are set up?
If you're using a calculator, six numbers after the decimal will give you your
Well, I
best.
never use a calculator. I would use Excel or something, but you have to set it out a way. So
Yes, for
out to six.
out to 6 will give you the best bet answer to for you if you're using the calculator. 6 decimals for you to get the most accurate number to round out to. But if you're using Excel, right, you have the capabilities to hide, display, and show certain things. So in this case, what I did was I extended my number. So if I did not extend my number, right, let's say I wanted to show me only 2 decimal points. It tells me it's 1.22, right? But because I know for a fact, right, if I extend this out by using the formatting tool right here, where if I want it to show more decimal places, it's showing me that it's $1.21764. Now, rule of thumb here is, can you charge your customer 21.76 pennies? No, so the idea here is you should actually generally round to the nearest penny. Now, what I was saying earlier is that if you choose to round up now, and let's say you sell 1,000 of those units, right, you would actually lose yourself profits of $3. So here, for example, right, let's say I sell 1,000 units at $1.22, right? How much is that gonna cost me? Well, that's gonna cost me $1,220, right? But what if I sold just $1,000 at that 1.2179? Okay? If I were to do that, check this out. I'd be costing myself $1,217.65, right? So that means here's the difference between the two. Now, this is what it cost me. If I were to round up, I just lost $2.35 to profits, right? Because this is what it cost me to sell my product. That means if I sold my product at $5.99 and I were to cost it at the rounded number, I would lose out on that $2.35. Now, don't forget, this may not be the only item that you sell. What if you sell 10,000 of those items? Then that's $20 you just lost to profits. Where if you choose to not round till the end, okay, then see this, so this calculation right here gives you, it's actually a little more accurate. It gives you every single penny. It gives you the most accurate information if you choose to not round until the end. Because in this case, right, if we choose to multiply with the unrounded number, that's just going to give us more closer numbers to the decimal points. And once we get there, then we can choose to round the pennies at the end to get, again, a more accurate number. Okay? And here, right, the difference between here, so then that means I get to gain that $2.35 profit if I were to not round that penny. Now, in this case, rule of thumb, it depends on who you're working for, right? Your company might choose to say, hey, I want you to round all these numbers. Okay, great. But when you do choose to round those numbers, you are going to have to keep in mind how much money you have, how many items you sold, because again, if I were to sell exactly this amount right here, the 850 units at $1.22, unfortunately you would go over it, and you didn't pay that much amount. So that's why you have to be very careful when you do round your numbers early off in the beginning, just because then you have to keep a very close track record of it, because you might overcharge yourself when you didn't actually pay that. Make
So when
sense?
you say round at the end, you're talking at the end of the accounting period, correct?
No, I'm talking about when you actually sell them. And let's say you are choosing to use the unrounded number. The number that you get, the result here in your total cost, that number is going to be rounded to the nearest penny.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't sure where you were classifying the end of. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in this case, it's an example, right? This is the first one, looking at a rounded number versus an unrounded number. And look at the results. In this case, this is what it's costing you. So you would end up losing that $2.35 because you are selling 1,000 of those items. Now, again, like I mentioned before, if you sold 10,000 items, then the gap between the amount that you would lose out for costing becomes greater and greater. So it really depends on your company. If they choose and if they tell you, hey, I want you to round all your numbers early, then you're going to have to listen to whatever they say. But for me, I want the most accurate, the most closest answer you can get. So I'm going to teach you to use the unrounded numbers, and we round at the end when we calculate our total cost. Okay, we do not round the cost per item. That's what I want you guys to learn from this class, okay? Now, what I want you to also do too is I will teach you the formula as well. So, but in this case, for this example, you won't need to use the formula here. But I do want to make sure that you do understand this, that I want the most accurate information. I want the closest to the penny I can get this amount to be, all right? Okay. So that's that right there. And yes, and you want to be consistent. Don't round your numbers here and then not round your numbers there. Be consistent, right? That's one of the characteristics of financial statements is you need to be consistent. If you're going to choose to round everything. If you choose to not round, then be consistent and not round everything. So it is a rule, but however, in this class, I'm going to teach you to use unrounded numbers, okay? Because I want the most accurate number, okay? All right. So the next situation here is that on June 8th, right, we purchased 700 units at $1.09. So my total purchase price here is
763.
763 plus $85 gives me a total cost of
848.
848. And then again, so then what is going to be my cost per item?
1.21148. or 428.
Okay, so yes, as recommendation, if you choose to, I want you to display at least 6 decimal points, because if you are using a calculator to calculate this, 6 numbers after the decimal point should give you the most accurate number to be able to round safely. Okay, because if you stop at 1.2114, you will get definitely a rounded number that might be slightly off to what the actual answer is. Okay, because you're rounding a little too early. The number's off too early. Okay, so in this case, good, right? Let's see what's next. If on June 10, I end up purchasing 1,600 units at $1.12, my total purchase price here is
1792.
good. Plus 200 gives me a total cost of
'Would be 1992.
1992. Good. And then what is my cost per item here?
Mine does round though. It says 1.245.
That's okay.
Where normal it's been out.
Yeah.
Let's see when yours out is.
So in this case, right, here is the most dangerous number you will ever come across, is you have a split penny. A split penny, right, if you understand the rules of rounding, right, if you see a 5-digit, or I'm sorry, the digit 5, right, that automatically tells you to round up. But if you're selling your items too, right, that's where you can accidentally create an invisible penny, because you're rounding up your cost, but you're also rounding up how much ending inventory you have at the end of the day. So this is one of the dangerous ones that you have to keep an eye on when you have a split penny going on, because that's where you have to choose. Only one side can be rounded up. All right. So that's definitely something that is an accounting rule that you have to be aware of if you choose to not have, if you choose to not use unrounded numbers and wait till the very end to round. This is the most dangerous number that you can come across, because at the end of the day, you are getting $1.24, but it's $1.24.5. So again, that half of a penny is one of those things that can cause you to round up, because Excel doesn't know that if you have a split penny here, it's going to automatically round up your cost, and it's also going to round up how much your ending inventory is. So that is one of the things you have to keep in mind and keep a lookout for. So in this case, it actually evens out at half a penny. Okay, so you're not wrong there. Okay. All right. Okay, let's continue with the last two. If you bought 600 units at $1.20, right? That should give you $720. Plus 70 gives you a total cost of $790, right? That's simple math right there. So then I'm going to take $790 and divide it across 600 units, and that's going to give me a cost per item of that $1.136667. Okay. And then the last one for June 14, right? We purchased 1,200 units at $1.25. Okay. So that should give you a total purchase price of $1,500. Okay. Plus 150, which is another easy, quick math one. So that should give you 1,650. And you want to be very careful, because if you accidentally did something like that where I just moved the cell across, you want to make sure that if you are using Excel, that in this box, that very small green triangle, once your mouse turns this black plus sign, that will give you the allowance for you to copy the formula across, or in this case, down to the next cell accordingly. So in this case, 1650, right? 1650 spread across 1,200 units will give you a cost per item to be $1.375. So another split penny. Okay. Now the great thing, so now that we finished the accounting period, we now need to go ahead and solve for our totals so we can start calculating our cost of goods sold. Okay? So, excuse me, sorry. What is my total quantity that I have purchased? Right? 1250 plus 850 plus 700 plus 1600 plus 600, and last but not least plus that 1200. What is my total amount of units that I have purchased? Ooh, you missed one more number. I think you missed that last one right
I was doing
there.
it in my head. I didn't have a calculator there. So.
No worries. It's okay. That's okay. So in this case, I was also trying to follow along too. So in this case, if you were to do it in your head, 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 gives you 0. 5 plus 5 gives you 10, plus 0 gives you 10, plus 0 plus 0 plus 0. So that's carryover. 3, 11, plus 7 is 18, plus 6 is 24, plus 2 gives you 22. Okay, and then you can solve for the rest. So good. All right. So that's the total number of units that I purchased was 6,200 units. Okay. What about my total purchases? How much in grand total was my total purchases? Okay, in this case, what's my total purchase price here?
It's $7,060.
$7,060. Good. Right? What about my total freight? What's the total cost of my freight?
$755.
755. Good. So what is 760 plus 775? 755 gives you a grand total cost of $7,815. Okay. You don't need to add up your sums for your cost per item or your unit price, because in this case, these are the only four numbers you need to carry on into your problem here. So then again, our net purchases, right? How much did I purchase in grand total? 6,200 units at the 7,060, okay? We don't have any returns or allowances, so right now that's going to subtract nothing, okay? Freight adds 0 to the quantity, but it does add to the cost, right? You're going to add $755, okay, to give you a total net purchase of 6,200 units at a grand total cost of the $7,815, okay? So again, all these numbers are going to come from calculating from above here, okay? Now in this case, I don't have beginning inventory, right? And then if I carry my net purchases down, right, my beginning plus my net purchases is going to give me my goods available. So in this case, 0 plus 6,200, right? It's straightforward. You're going to get the same exact number. So in this case, because we have no beginning inventory, your net purchases is going to equal your goods available, okay? Now let's go ahead and take a look at my scenario and see how much I should have left at the end of June 15. So it says right here, you have a total of 500 units on hand. Okay, we have 500 units on hand. So that's my ending balance right now. So that means how many units have I sold so far? If I started out with 6,200 units and I have remaining 500, the assumption here is I must have sold 5,700 units. Excellent. So in this case, right, that's exactly what we need to solve for. We need to solve for, oh, I moved my cell over. We need to solve for the total cost of goods sold, okay? So again, you have a choice because remember yesterday we saw that, hey, if you understand this concept very well, then you are also able to calculate the ending balance as well. Whichever one that you are most comfortable with, okay? I'm teaching you how to use the costing method. But in any ways you can figure this out much more quickly, then go ahead and do so, okay? But in this case, let's see, how many batches of inventory have I purchased? Let's see, 2, 4, 6, okay? So that means my cost of goods sold column is going to be here, right? And I'm going to build a table within this table here to separate, to give this my cost, to calculate my cost of goods sold, okay? So in this case, right, I'm going to go ahead and do my running balances here, okay? And what these are is just equal sums, so it's just, I'm just equaling up whatever the amount is in this column, okay? Right? So in this case, right, looking at these batches of inventory here, which one would I start out with if I'm using Lifo to cost out my inventory?
Most recent batch.
Most recent batch, which we purchased on June 14 for 1,200 units. Now in this case, I need to sell 5,700 units, so that's for sure. I'm going to get rid of all 1,200 units, okay? In this case, I know exactly what those 1,200 units cost me, right? Right now, they're currently at $1.37.5, but since I'm getting rid of the entire batch, I'm going to get rid of all $16.50, right? Because that's the total cost. I don't need to calculate it, okay? Now I sold my first 1,200. I need to sell 5,700. So which batch of inventory am I going to sell next?
The 600.
You're going to sell, yeah, right? You're going to go ahead and go for the 600. Okay. Right, so that's going to give you, what, 1,800 units. So already I can see, well, I can just keep going, right? I would go for the next batch, which is going to be the 1,600, right? That will leave me at 3,400. How many more do I need to keep going? Well, if I sold that batch, then I'm going to sell this batch of 700. Okay, So that's at 4,100. I'm probably going to end up selling the next batch of the 850. Okay. And that will leave me with 4,950. So in this case, I only have one batch of inventory left, right? My 12,500. How many of these items am I going to sell to reach the 5,700? Well, we could do our simple math here. 5,700 minus 4,950, right? How many more items do I need to sell from this very last batch of inventory?
$750.
750 to get me exactly 5,700, right? And in this case, right, all of these are going to be what we're going to copy here. Let me do the cost first. So in this case, it's going to be that there. This one's going to be this one here. This one's going to be this one here. And of course, this one's going to be this one here. Okay? So these are all the ones that we already know that we're going to sell directly out from my inventory, right? I don't have to calculate this because I already know what they're going to give me an end result for. Okay? I think I got one more number too. Yeah, one more number. Okay? So we already know that these things are already pre-calculated because I already know if I'm going to sell the whole batch and get rid of the whole batch, this is what's going to cost me. Okay? So now I have only one batch of inventory left. In this case, out of this 1,250, I need to sell 750, right? Now in this case, I'm not taking all of it, right? So I need to calculate how much it's going to cost me per item, okay? So in this case, how much is it per item?
$1.20000.
Good. So in this case, it's going to cost me $1.20. Okay? Because in this case, there's a bunch of zeros after this. That means it's an even number. Oh, wrong number. Sorry about that, guys. Wrong number. It's going to cost me $1.20. So in this case, right, how much is it going to cost me to sell 750 units at $1.20?
$900.
It's going to give you $900 even. So in this case, right, I end up, if I have my running balance total right here for me, right, it automatically adds up everything that I have here. So I have a total of 5,700 units that I sold, and it's at a grand total of $7,215, right? Right? But if you were to do the other way, the quicker way, right? If you understand the rules of LIFO, right? We understand that if we're going to sell our inventory, we're going to start from the bottom and slowly make our way up to the top. We already know what my ending balance is. It is at 500 units. Well, if it's at 500 units, if I'm going to sell everything from my bottom all the way up to top, I'm going to slowly get rid of it. That means the first batch of inventory should be my ending balance, or my ending balance will come from the very first batch of inventory that I have. So if I know that much, right, and I can figure out what 500 times $1.20 will give me, right? So if I were to do my ending balance, I'll make my table here. Right? I know that I have 500 units at $1.20, right? Because I'm going to sell out all my inventory anyway, starting from the bottom, making my way up to the top. That means my ending should remain at the top of my very first purchase of inventory. So that means I should have $600 left, right? Or I can simply just, if I've already solved for my cost of goods sold, I can simply take my goods available of 7,815 and subtract 7,215 because that's how much it cost me to get me my same number of 600, okay? Whichever way you want to do it first, or do it however you want to solve it, okay? But in this case, this is me showing you how to utilize the costing method and how we get to these answers, okay? So there you go. We reached the end of this problem. So all we have to do here is go ahead and complete the last question here, which is my conversion entry. What do I need to recognize to journalize my conversion entry? Okay, we know it's June 15.
You need your asset, which is your inventory.
Correct. In this case, we don't know exactly what we bought. So we'll just refer that to inventory. Good. What else do we need to recognize?
Cost of goods sold.
Cost of goods sold, right? Because at the end of the day, we end up selling some units along the way. What else do we need to recognize?
Purchase and then flight expenses.
Correct, because in this case, what is this entry telling us to do? It's telling us to convert my purchase expenses and my freight expense and put them in another account that represents that we have ending inventory and we sold some of the inventory along the way. So in this case, that's exactly what you're doing. You're going to be emptying out these accounts and transferring the balances into the respective categories, right? I have ending inventory, but I also sold X amount of my inventory that I originally purchased. Good. So in this case, right, what was the total value of my ending inventory?
Was 7,215.
Seven.
No, that was the cost of goods sold.
Mm-hmm. Good.
The
So it
ending
was
will be
$600.
It'd be 600. So again, you just right here said that was the cost of goods sold. Okay. What about my total purchase price? What was my total purchase price?
It was
That was the 8,000,
7,060.
wasn't it?
What was that?
Net purchase is 78.15.
Okay, but that includes the freight. I'm just looking at just
yeah.
my purchase price.
7,060.
Yes, because here I have to keep my freight separate. So then now how much was my total freight?
755.
755, okay? And again, rule of thumb for the journals is we need to ensure that we didn't make any typos or any mistakes, that my debits of the 7,815 must equal my credits, okay, of 7,815. Okay, so yes, we match both sides. Now, does this number always equal my net purchase? No, it does not always do that, but it does equal your goods available, okay? So that's what you have to keep in mind. But again, your job isn't to match your inventory worksheet. Your job is to make sure that when you do journalize your transactions, that your debits equal your credits. Okay? All right, good job. And that was...
The date's supposed to be the 30th, not the 15th?
Well, let's see. Nope, we ended on the 15th.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, but then it's not April 30th.
What is April 30th?
In the question, you left the date as April 30th.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's this. Okay. Well, you get it. It's the end of the accounting period. It's in this case. Okay. All right. All right. So that concludes